Hello again, and welcome to those that have just joined us. We're really excited to share with you the results of our corporate startup activity index. This is the first edition that Startup Link is releasing. For today's launch event, we will be starting with a presentation of our key findings from our CEO, 𝗬𝗏 𝗏𝗏. Hi, Ellie.
Hello, everyone. Really nice to be here. Very exciting event for us, of course, because this is the first time we're launching a corporate report. This is a report that is generally ranking the entire corporate ecosystem in terms of their startup activity. I have to say, when we started this, it was the first time that anyone has touched the topic in a systematic way with an algorithm. We're extremely excited about the result, very happy about it, and we're excited to provide it for free for anyone that might be interested. This is a report ranking more than 370 corporates from all over the world according to their startup activity. I want to thank all our partners, Crunchbase, SEMrush, Research Innovation Foundation in Cyprus, 𝗘𝗰liche Colombia, Kingston in Canada, la Cámara de Comercio de Cali, 𝗘𝗃𝗃, el gobierno de Catalunya. There are a lot of people that supported this effort, a massive effort. What you're going to see here, and I do want to say why did we do it also. Corporates are investing a lot of efforts into startup ecosystem development, but are not necessarily celebrated for their efforts. So this is the first time that we're actually trying to celebrate them in a systematic way, hundreds of them, to make sure that they continue, because in many cases, those efforts are not necessarily supported by their headquarters. So we want to show who is winning in each category. As for the report, before we move on to the methodology, and we're going to have a few words about the methodology, I'll just say that the report basically has the global champions, the top 20, then we go industry by industry and show the ranking for each one of those industries. And then we also there are also some interesting sub-industries, so you'll be able to know who is basically winning in each one of those industries. Pretty interesting. Many industries, maybe many sub-industries, and also in addition to that, of course, countries. For each country, who are our national heroes, the people that are the corporates that are moving the startup innovation. So that's something that we're super happy to celebrate, and that's basically it. Really interested to get feedback from the corporates as well. If you have any feedback, if you want to help us out with data on your corporate for the next ranking, let us know. We really hope that headquarters can now assess their corporate activity better, and also that the startups, when they choose which corporate that they want to work with, will choose wisely. And we're providing the tools to choose as wisely as possible. So thank you, Catherine. I hope people enjoy this report. We can put the link if we didn't in the chat, and looking forward for your feedback. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ellie. So now you will be hearing more about the methodology and how this report was created in terms of algorithm. You'll be hearing from our head of data, 𝗏𝗏. Yes, so 𝗏𝗏 should be promoted soon.
Hello, Catherine. Thank you very much. Thank you to Ellie for the introduction to the report. So yeah, the idea is that I won't be taking much of your time. My name is 𝗏𝗏. I'm the head of research at Startup Link, and I will be explaining a little bit of the methodology we created for this report. So I will be sharing my screen. 1 second. And yeah, the idea is to explain how we arrived to the scores that we assigned to each corporation in the index. The first thing is the guiding principles. The idea of this index is to rank corporations according to the strength of their engagement with the startup ecosystem, right? With startups and the startup ecosystems around the world. It is not to evaluate the innovation, the full innovation output of the corporations, but rather the relationship, the strength of the relationship to the startup ecosystems. Just to be clear here, okay? So how did we do that? We basically, for each corporation, we calculated 3 subscores. So in the report you will see the total score, but for each corporation we calculated 3 subscores that contain multiple parameters, right? So these 3 subscores are the corporate involvement score, the startup success score, and the ecosystem involvement score. The corporate involvement score is basically how much the corporation is throwing of the resources of the corporation are being dedicated to these activities. So basically, it's the number of startup programs are being organized by the corporation, the number of startups that are engaged in the programs, the total investment of the corporation in the startups, and the number of employees of the corporation in the programs, and acquisitions of innovative companies over the past years by the corporation. Okay, so that's the corporate involvement score. How much resources are being dedicated by the corporation to startup and startup ecosystem activity. Then we have the startup success score, which evaluates how successful the startups that go through the programs from these corporations are. So we evaluate the traction, the traffic of the startups associated with the corporation's programs, the total investments that have been received by the startups engaging these programs, different to the investment deployed by the corporates. By the way, this is total investments received from the corporates or other investors. Also, the employee growth in the startups associated with the corporations, how big these startups have become, the exits and unicorns that of startups that have gone through these programs in the corporations. And the third subscore is the ecosystem integration score, which evaluates the relationships between the corporation and the startup ecosystem. So it evaluates ecosystem partnerships with organizations related to the ecosystem, such as universities, research institutions, other accelerators, tech hubs, etc. The number of alumni startups that have become suppliers of the corporation, and to evaluate how long-term these activities are, how successfully long-term these activities are for the corporation, and also the number of alumni startups that have become clients of the corporation, so suppliers and clients. And yeah, and where do we get all this information? So we get a lot of data from our data partners, such as Crunchbase, SEMrush, and many local partners around the world. Also, we do direct research of public information. So basically what is published by the corporations on their sites or the program sites, or any other information that we may find online regarding these probably news outlets are an example. And then the direct corporate disclosures. Okay, so basically this is direct data submissions from corporations that through a survey process that we had during the process of research of this report. So basically we engage with several corporations to get more precise data on their programs and activities. And if you want to be a part of this for next year's of this survey for next year's report, please feel free to contact us. There's a contact form right in page 69 here in the corporate disclosures paragraph. So yeah, that's a bit about what we are doing here. Well, the time scope is the only thing that we're missing, but in general, we're considering all the information about the startup program since the inception of the programs. In some cases, such as unicorns and exits, we fade the impact of these massive success stories throughout the years, because we consider that if there's an older unicorn, the huge success for the corporation is lower than a more recent unicorn. But Besides of that, the time scope is basically since the inception of the programs and until the death, of course, of the programs and the death of the startups. So yeah, thank you very much for the space, and please download our reports. You can access it on the link on the chat of this video. Thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for showing us more about the methodology of this report. Like Chris said, if you have any questions about the methodology or how you can make sure that your data is included, your corporation's data is included for next year, please feel free to contact us. You can see the contact us as well on the chat of this Zoom. So now we will move on to some key insights about this report. So I will be showing just a couple of pages where we can see the main overall insights. So first of all, here is a list of the top 20 startups, corporate startups that we have. As we see from the top 10, most of them are from the US, and also most of the industries are either software and data and hardware and IoT. We do have one exception in the top 10 of Samsung, which is in South Korea. Once we go to top 11 to 20, there's more diversity there in terms of the country, but we still see that it is still mostly dominated by, or most of the top 20 is still mostly dominated by the US. And also just looking at rankings 11 to 20, there's also more diversity in terms of the industries. Let's move on. So on the report, you will be able to see the rankings based on industry, sub-industry, and also some of the country rankings where we have countries that have reached a critical mass of corporates to have their own page. So if you're interested in a particular industry, sub-industry, or a country, you can go to this page to take you to the sections that you're most interested in. I will just also give a brief overview of the current state of the corporate startup activity based on our findings. Like we saw on the top 20, there's not much difference from when we look at the overall sample that we have. We see that the US has the most number of corporations supporting startups with 135, followed by Japan with 24, UK with 21, Germany with 21, and France with 15. There is a huge gap between the US and the other countries on the list, but once we go to the second most country with the most corporate programs, we can see that the gap is lower. Now looking at the industries with the most corporations supporting startups, we see that based on our sample, we have fintech with the industry that has the most corporations having startup programs with 81, followed by hardware and IoT, software and data, transportation, e-commerce, energy, environment, health tech, social leisure, and food tech. So this is quite interesting because, when we see the top 10 corporates, there's actually, it's mostly were hardware and IoT and software and data, but we actually see that in terms of number of corporate programs, fintech is the most populous industry. Now we look at it's the more industry insights. We see that in like I mentioned, although hardware and IoT and software and data has less number than fintech, in terms of looking at the top 20, hardware and IoT has 7 and software and data has 6, while fintech only has 3 corporate programs in the top 20. And then now we look at the country insights. Like we saw on the initial slide that I showed, the US dominates the top 20 with 13 of their programs comprising the list, and then we have Japan with 1, and then the rest of the countries also has just 1 each. So we see that there is a gap between US and the rest of the countries. Okay. So I just wanted to, before I end this part, I just wanted to show a couple of pages where we can see more insights. So for example, here we have the FinTech page where we show the top 20 corporate programs in the industry. And if we go back, we can also now navigate and look at, for example, it would be interesting to see, for example, Japan. In Japan, this is Japan's page, and we can see that these are the top 20 startups in startup programs in Japan, corporates with the top, most of them in various industries. Top 1 is Sony, followed by Mitsubishi, and then Rakuten. Yes, and then like I already mentioned, we have pages for other industries, sub-industries, and also other countries that might be interesting for you. Okay, so that would be mostly about the key insights of this report. If you have any questions, feel free to put them on the chat or put them on Q&A, and we can answer those questions as well. And for those that have just joined us, you can see the link to download this report on the chat, and also a link to contact us. So now we can move on to the last part of our event, where we will be hearing more from corporations themselves about the programs that they have. So first of all, I would like to, we will be hearing from Hitachi. Particularly, we'll be hearing from Kenichi Funaki, who is from the Corporate Venturing Office. So while my colleague is promoting Kenichi-san, I will just want to let you know more about Hitachi and its rankings on our report. So currently, Hitachi is ranked 72nd in the world and 9th in Japan. And we will know more about their programs, but some of their programs include Hitachi Energy Startup Challenge, and a couple. Hi, Hitachi, Kenichi. Nice to meet you. Thank you for
nice to meet
joining us.
you. Yeah, thank you very much. And it is a great honor to be ranked as a 72, if I understand correctly, and also a 9 in Japan ranking. So we are very pleased to see it, and then it is a great honor to be recognized as one of the corporates among the varieties of the innovative companies across the globe. So what we did is we started the corporate venture journey in 2019, and together with our own CVC fund. Though out of those CVC funds, we scouted around 7,000 companies, and then we identified great companies, and then we initiated the 150 startup collaboration project, where among which we launched new services and the programs, and also a joint go-to-market activities. And then we could find the nearly 20 opportunities to launch the new product and services startups. So I'm not sure how others are doing, but in terms of the collaboration rate against the number of portfolio companies, we are reaching around the 40%. That means out of the portfolio companies, the 40% of the companies are identified as the great partner to Hitachi. So we are still on the way for further height, but we're really glad to be ranked here, and also we really appreciate the Startup Link's support to let us be on the table of this kind of a global market. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for introducing, the program more, and it's great to hear the big percentage of portfolio startups that you have that are really a great fit for the corporation. yes, if you want, we can also, share more with the crowd about, the links that they can apply to. We will be sharing it after the event as well. So thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. Hey. Yeah, so thank you again, Qisan, and it's really great to hear more about, different programs around the world and how they're supporting startups in their ecosystems and beyond. And that's also one of the reasons why we really started this report. Yeah. So maybe before we close, Ellie, do you have any closing remarks? Okay, so thank you, everyone. Does anyone have any questions? We have time for Q&A. If not, I think we can formally close this launch event. We're really excited to be sharing this report to everyone. If you're part of corporate startup program and you were not able to see your corporation or your program on the list, you feel free to contact us. Or if you want to know more about how we're doing this rankings and how we are sourcing our data.
Okay, I can take a quick question from Angela. So yeah, the SMEs currently, as far as we're concerned, are actually so Angela is asking about, did we discuss the role of SMEs in this context? The SMEs are basically the ones that are receiving, as far as we're concerned, the service from the corporates. So the idea is that this report is fully focused on corporate startup activity, corporate venture, corporate innovation, and so on. The SMEs themselves are the startups, as far as we're concerned. We do know that a lot of other smaller companies are working with startups. It's much harder to discover information about this. I would say that also we do have a situation where we need more data. There isn't that much data. It's much easier to do the global startup ecosystem reports on the cities and countries because we have understanding about which startups are operating where. In terms of the corporate, it's a little bit more complex because a lot of this information is also hidden. When the corporates are not necessarily sharing this, we want to encourage corporates to do more and actually being more open about what are they doing exactly by benchmarking them and also allow them to celebrate their success. I do want to say that in the last year, we've seen the closures of a few very big startup programs and corporate startup programs that is sad to see, because that means basically that now the startups have less tools in their toolbox to be successful. For example, we were very saddened to hear about Intel Ignite closing their program. They did an amazing work. They were also ranked very, very high. Back in the past, we had SAP.io basically closing and so on. We want to make sure that those programs have enough marketing weapons when they go to their headquarters to tell them, look, we're doing really well. Because again, the concern that we have is that startups are not going to have enough tools to basically do their work. And when those guys, the corporates, are disappearing from the startup ecosystem, startups that are just starting have one less potential partner to work with. So we're much focused on that. We are interested to expand to SMEs as well, working with startups. Usually there aren't that many of them because working with startups is very, very costly, and SMEs cannot not necessarily able to onboard startups and create programs and invest in them. But some of them are doing that, and if there are indications of that, we're very happy to share them.
Thank you, Ellie. I think we have no more questions on the chat. So thank you again to everyone for joining us. Yeah. Yes, thank you, Angela. Yes, feel free if you know, Angela, if you want to discuss more about this report, feel free to contact us via the link that was shared on the chat, and that goes to everyone as well. If you have more questions and want to catch up more about the methodology and also understanding more about this report, we are very happy to speak with you. So thank you, everyone. I hope everyone has a great day, and let's work together and keep on innovating for all of our ecosystems.